Welcome. Today we're diving into a really personal question, something a lot of people wrestle with. How can you be genuinely sure about where you stand spiritually? We're going to break down a kind of theological roadmap to real assurance, so let's jump right in.
So this is it, right? This is the big question at the heart of everything we're talking about today. And it's one almost all of us have asked at some point. How do you go from just hoping you're on the right path to actually truly knowing it? The source material we're digging into offers a pretty clear, structured way to think about this. What's so powerful about where we're starting is that it doesn't begin with some big, lofty sermon. It starts right here with this incredibly honest, raw admission, this feeling that our own efforts, that our own love just fall short, that it's kind of shabby. That's such a common struggle, and it's the exact problem we're setting out to understand. Okay, so if that's the problem, where does the journey to assurance even begin? Well, according to our source, it all starts with the first of three pillars, this foundational link between truth and confession. So the very first step, and this is key, isn't about how you feel. It's not even about what you do. It all starts with belief. What a person says is true about the absolute core tenets of their faith. This intellectual and, verbal alignment, that's the essential starting block. And to really get this, we got to look at the original Greek. The word for confess here is homologio. And what that literally means is to say the same thing. This is such a crucial distinction. It's not about confessing something you did wrong. It's about agreeing with God. It's about being of one mind with the divine truth laid out in the scripture. It's about saying, yes, what you say is true. Okay, so you have that foundation of truth. Now let's see how that builds into the second pillar. The argument is that this intellectual belief is meant to grow into something way deeper, a real relational confidence that's rooted in love. And this is a major shift. The idea of knowing God in this context isn't like knowing a fact, like 2 plus 2 is 4. It's described as the most intimate kind of acquaintance possible. So it's a huge move from just knowing about God to actually abiding in His love. And that word, abide, is absolutely central to this whole idea. It means to dwell, to live in, to make one's home. Just think about that for a second. What does your home mean to you? And yeah, this slide just nails it. To abide in God's love means finding your ultimate comfort there. It's where you feel most secure. It's the thing your whole life is oriented around. It's the place where you are fundamentally deeply at peace. It becomes your spiritual home. So what's the actual practical result of living in this kind of relationship of truth and love? Well, the outcome's pretty profound. It totally transforms fear into confidence, especially when you think about this idea of a final day of judgment. The source uses this word perfected, which might sound a little intimidating, but what it really means here is love that has reached its goal. And what is that goal? It's to completely cast out the fear of punishment, replacing that dread with a totally different emotion. This slide just lays out the contrast so clearly. Look at this. On the left, in the fear column, everything's connected to punishment. It makes you feel dread. It makes you want to hide. But look over on the right, under perfect love, a relationship where love has reached its goal completely casts that fear out. It replaces it with confidence and a desire to embrace God, not run away. It's a total reversal. All right, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the ultimate practical test. How do you actually know if this internal reality of truth and love is, real? The source argues that it absolutely has to translate into tangible action. But first, we got to be clear about something. This isn't about just being a naturally nice person. The source is super clear on this. This kind of love is supernatural. It comes from God. The whole argument is that we're able to love because we were first loved by God. And it's that divine love that empowers a real, visible change in how we act. So if this love is real, how does it actually show up in the world? What's the single most important, visible test that proves a person truly loves a God they can't see? And boom, there it is. The source calls this the acid test, and you can see why. The language is incredibly blunt. A claim to love an unseen God is totally meaningless. It's a lie if it's not actually demonstrated by tangible love for the visible people right in front of you. So when you put all these pillars together, what's the main takeaway from this whole framework? It's that assurance isn't a one-time thing you get or some final destination you arrive at. It's a lifelong process of growth. I really love this metaphor from the source. It says spiritual confidence isn't some instant factory-made product you just pull off a shelf. No, it's organic. Think about fruit on a tree. It takes time, right? It needs to be nurtured. And most importantly, it has to stay connected to its source, the vine, to even begin to develop. And this is a perfect way to visualize that whole journey, step by step. First, you see it all starts with that connection to the source. That's the confession of truth we talked about at the very beginning. Second, growth takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Then, as point 3 shows, the fruit starts out small, just a tiny bud. That's the beginning of love in action. And finally, with that continued connection, it slowly ripens into its full potential. That confidence, that assurance, it's the natural result of this ripening process. It's not the starting point. And that leaves us with a final thought, a real shift in perspective. This framework suggests assurance isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a living, growing thing. So the real question isn't, have I arrived? But rather, am I growing? It shifts our entire focus away from some final destination and puts it right back on the journey itself.